It is November 22nd, 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has been going on for almost a year, and it has been over 8 months since this pandemic arrived in the United States, and it's been over 8 months since this virus started affecting this country very badly. March of this year, March 2020, is right around when most states started implementing lockdowns and precautions in order to stop the spread of this virus. March is when lots of social distancing measures were put in place. March is when schools started getting shut down. And it has been 8 months since that has happened. It has been 8 months since this pandemic started directly affecting the lives of most people across the country and across the world. And despite it being that many months since this whole pandemic began, we still are in a terrible situation right now. In fact, daily cases and daily deaths are reaching an all time high, especially the daily cases. At this point, we are reaching levels never seen before throughout this entire pandemic. In the past couple of days, we've had around 200,000 cases a day. I believe yesterday or the day before, we broke a new record when we hit 200,000 cases in a single day. By the way, no other country in the world has even reached 100,000 cases in a day. The closest any other country came to reaching that milestone before the United States did so was when India had 96,000 confirmed cases of this virus in a single day. But after that happened a bit later, I think it was around a month ago in late October, the United States finally broke that threshold when they had 100,000 cases in a single day. It was actually slightly more than that, but we broke that barrier, and then a few weeks later, we're now breaking the 200,000 cases per day barrier. And it looks like this spike is going to last a while longer. It might last throughout the winter. And this entire wave of the pandemic is worse than the spring wave and the summer wave. We've had two distinct waves before this one. It looks like in the spring we had the original wave, and then it slowed down for a bit, the spread slowed down for a bit, but it started spreading to other states. It spread to, in the spring, it spread to states in the Northeast, states like New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Connecticut. All those states in the Northeast were hit badly in the first wave, but then in the second wave, it started hitting states in the South, the Southwest and the Southeast. States like Texas, Florida, Georgia, California, and Arizona were all affected pretty badly by the second wave. The second wave took place in the summer. First wave was in the spring, second wave was in the summer, but now we're in the middle of the third wave. We're deep into the third wave of this pandemic in the United States. And I made a video talking about what I perceived to be the third wave back in early October, a month and a half ago. And the reason why I said a third wave was coming was because I saw states like Wisconsin, states like Iowa, states like the Dakotas, North and South Dakota, getting badly affected by this pandemic once again. And those states had massive spikes, especially the state of Wisconsin. That is what prompted me to make that video when I saw how badly Wisconsin was doing with the virus. They had a massive spike in October. But I was thinking back then that the third wave might affect just those Midwestern states the worst, but other states might not be affected as badly. Other states that got affected in the first and second waves badly, I thought they would be mostly spared by this third wave, but it turns out that's not the case. Every single state, for the most part, is having a massive spike in the daily case count and daily death count. I don't know if there's any exceptions to this, but almost every state that I've looked at on worldometers.com, the website that has all sorts of data relating to this pandemic, and it has data for the nationwide level, the worldwide level, and even at the state level. You probably know about that website. It's a pretty popular website, but that website has it shows that almost every state is currently experiencing a massive increase in the daily case count and daily death count. So it's not just limited to one region of the country, it's affecting basically every state. States like California, Texas, and New York are all having increases in the daily case count. Like I said earlier, the Midwestern states are getting affected badly, and all the southern states are getting affected badly. Florida's having another increase. Georgia, I believe, is as well having another increase in the daily case count. So this third wave is sparing no one in the country. Every single state is getting hit hard by this third wave. Which states are getting affected the worst by this third wave? I would say it's the Dakotas getting affected the worst. North Dakota and South Dakota. These two states are getting hit more badly than any other state in the country. And there's a couple of reasons why I say that. For one, neither of the Dakotas are really implementing strict social distancing measures, strict lockdown measures, and that is one of the reasons why the virus is spreading pretty quickly through these two states. Another reason for that is if you look at the percentage of the population that has been confirmed to have this virus, in the Dakotas it is reaching 10%. In South Dakota, I believe it's over 9% of the people living in that state who have been confirmed to have that virus, who've been tested positive for COVID 19. In North Dakota, I believe it's around 8%. One of them's 8%, one of them's 9%. I mixed them up, but both of those states, both North Dakota and South Dakota, both of those states are reaching 10% in terms of the percentage of the population that is tested positive for this virus. Give it a couple more weeks, and I would assume that both states would reach the 10% mark in terms of the portion of the population that is tested positive. That is really scary to think about. To think that 10% of the entire state has been confirmed to test positive for this disease. Keep this in mind. Just because 10% have been confirmed to test positive for this disease, that doesn't mean those are the only people who actually have gotten the virus. Because the number of cases are going to be undercounted for sure, meaning there's going to be more people that actually have the virus than are tested for the virus and test positive. So maybe the actual percentage of people in those states are closer to 15 or even 20%. If a lot of people are asymptomatic and don't get tested but they still have the virus nonetheless, then that would mean that the percentage of people in those states who have the virus it's actually closer to 20%. It's a lot higher than 10%. But regardless, every single state is getting hit by this third wave, but states in the Midwest, especially North and South Dakota, are getting hit the worst in my opinion. North and South Dakota have a relatively small amount of people, but despite that, they are still getting hit pretty badly by this third wave. In terms of South Dakota, one of the major reasons why I think they are doing pretty badly with this virus is because in the city of Sturgis, South Dakota, there was this major motorcycle rally. It takes place every year, but it took place this year despite the pandemic happening, and there were 500,000 people approximately in that event that attended that event, and a lot of people there didn't wear masks, and even if they did wear masks, a lot of them didn't social distance, and there were major crowds at this event, and that really caused the virus to spread a lot, especially in the state of South Dakota, but even in other states the virus spread a lot because of that rally. People who lived in other states traveled to South Dakota in order to attend that event, and then they took the virus back home with them because a lot of people got the virus at that event, and it's easy to see why. Major crowds, 500,000 people, a lot of people did not wear masks, a lot of people did not social distance. So that motorcycle rally was definitely contributing to the major spike that we now see in the state of South Dakota, and probably to a certain extent the spike we see in North Dakota as well. So now I've established the fact that this third wave of the pandemic in the United States is hitting every state pretty badly, but I want to talk about now why I think that is the case. Why is it that we are getting hit so badly with this pandemic across the country? And there's a couple different reasons why that could be the case. One of the reasons why that could be the case is because it is getting colder outside, and what that means is a lot more people are staying indoors. People are going outside less, but they're still meeting up with other people. They're still going to different events, but these events, instead of taking place outside, they're now taking place indoors. Why does this matter? The virus spreads quite a bit more easily indoors than it does outdoors. They recommend actually that if you're going to stay indoors, if you're going to an event that's indoors, instead of staying just 6 feet away from some other people, it's safer to actually stay 10 feet away from others. I think 6 feet will still suffice for most people, but if you want to be extra safe, if you're staying indoors, if you're going to an indoor event where you're going to meet other people who don't live with you, then it's better to socially distance by staying 10 feet away from that other person or other people. But regardless, indoor gatherings definitely spread the virus more than outdoor gatherings do, and that is one of the main reasons why there could be a massive spike in this country right now in terms of daily cases and daily deaths. But besides that, another reason might just be that we're getting really deep into this pandemic. It's been going on for so many months now. We're reaching a year in terms of how long this pandemic has lasted. Granted, in the United States it's been 8 months, but in other countries it's been slightly longer because this pandemic reached other countries before it did the United States. But even then, the United States has more cases than any other country in the world. Why I bring this up is that a lot of people are probably getting tired of this pandemic, getting tired of socially distancing, getting tired of doing lockdowns, and they might be taking fewer precautions than they were earlier in the pandemic. They might not be wearing their mask as much, they might not be socially distancing as much, they might be meeting up more, they might be going out more, all sorts of different things. That might be the reason why we have a bigger spike now than we did in the spring or the summer. The fact that people are just getting tired of lockdowns, tired of socially distancing. And I would like people to keep in mind this pandemic is nowhere near being over yet. In fact, we're at an all time high in terms of the daily case count and death count. So I would urge you, if you're going to go out, make sure you wear your mask and make sure you socially distance whenever possible. That is one of the best ways to make sure that you don't get the virus and you don't spread it to other people if you're going out. But if everyone wore the mask in the country, if everyone in the country wore their mask whenever possible, I would guarantee you we would not be seeing this major spike that we are currently seeing. A lot of people don't wear their mask because they either find it inconvenient or because they find it slightly harder to breathe. I can understand if it was pretty hot outside why you wouldn't want to wear your mask, but now it's actually getting pretty cold in many places across the country, so I would think that it would be more comfortable to wear the mask. You're keeping your face slightly warmer, but I don't know. A lot of people don't wear their mask when they should be wearing their mask, and that's definitely one of the reasons why we're seeing this major spike across the country and within every single state for the most part in this country. Now, besides that, another small reason might be the fact that schools are now open. Basically, every school in the country, with a few exceptions, closed down back in the spring, back in March. That's when all the schools across the country closed down. But in the fall, a lot of these schools started opening up again for in person instruction. Some of these schools remained 100% online. Some of these schools did not open up in person, but they conducted all their classes virtually. But a lot of schools opened up to allow people to attend in person. What many schools did actually was they allowed you to choose between in person instruction and online instruction. So, depending on which school you attended, it would be right around like a 50-50 split between people who attend online and people who attend in person. Some school districts will have more than 50% attending online, some will have more than 50% attend in person, but regardless, the fact is, a lot of people are going to school in person, and that means that there is a greater chance of spreading the virus than if they attended school online virtually. Now, there is some research that shows that schools may not be a major factor in spreading this pandemic, and that other things such as bars and other sorts of indoor gatherings might be spreading this virus more. The evidence isn't fully conclusive yet, but there definitely is at least a slight amount of the spread being caused by schools. But in my opinion, if you're looking to shut down something in order to stop the spread of this virus, schools are not the first thing you should be looking towards. In my opinion, bars would be the best thing to shut down in terms of stopping the spread of this virus, because bars have been shown to really cause this virus to spread pretty rapidly. But anyway, I am hoping that this will be the last major wave of this pandemic in the United States, because I'm hoping that after this third wave, which is the biggest wave by far in terms of the different waves that have taken place in this country so far, the first wave was kind of big, and then the second wave was slightly bigger. Honestly, the first wave might have been bigger, but it just could have been that we undercounted the number of cases that there actually were because we didn't fully have access to testing yet. We didn't have adequate testing available in order to test everyone that actually had the virus. So it's possible that the number of cases that there actually were in the spring were severely undercounted. And if you look at the daily death counts between the spring and summer, the daily death count overall was actually quite a bit higher in the spring than it was in the summer across the United States. But one of the reasons why that was the case was just because of the fact that New York was doing very badly in terms of their daily death count during the spring, but then they got much, much, much better in the summer. Like, if you look at worldometers.com and look at the state of New York, the daily death count, the difference between the spring and summer is absolutely mind-boggling. The fact that they were able to get their death rate down by that much. They went from having around 1,000 deaths per day to having their death count now only in the double digits, while other states such as Texas and Florida were doing pretty good with the death count, the daily death count in the spring, but in the summer it got out of hand for these states. But anyway, I'm hoping that this is the last wave of this pandemic, the last major wave of this virus in the United States, because I'm hoping that after this wave ends, which I would predict would happen in around maybe February, I would expect it to get its worst at around December or January, and then start to slow down in February and get a lot better in March and April. But I'm hoping that by then, by spring of next year, we'll have a vaccine that is available to a large portion of the population in the United States. So I'm hoping that once we get done with this wave, which will be deadly, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it's going to be deadly, but I'm hoping that this is the last wave we have that's deadly. But after we get done with this wave, I'm hoping the vaccine will be available to a good portion of the population so that a lot of people can take the vaccine and we can get closer and closer to herd immunity, closer and closer to the point where we don't need to do any more restrictions in terms of where people can go.